I am Isabella, 35, and just last month, my role as the family anchor, holding everything together through my divorce, completely unraveled. The stability I'd poured my heart into for my twins, Jack and Emma, crumbled at my parents' house, where we'd moved after my marriage fell apart. It was supposed to be a fresh start, but it turned into a battleground of favoritism at our first family dinner since the move. My parents, eyes gleaming with pride, fawned over my brother Stephen's newborn, while my kids sat ignored. They demanded I celebrate Stephen's new chapter like it was the only one that mattered, and when I pushed back, pointing out how Jack and Emma were being sidelined, the room froze. "You're being selfish, Isabella," my mother snapped, her voice sharp as a blade, with Stephen smirking and my kids shrinking in their seats. But here's the truth. Their dismissal didn't break me, it ignited something fierce. I'm not just fighting back, I'm about to rewrite our entire story. A quick note. This story is copyrighted by the YouTube channel Guest Stories. Reposting, revoicing, or editing this content without permission constitutes copyright infringement. Thank you for respecting original creative work. Now, back to the story. The dining room smelled of roasted chicken and tension, the kind that sticks to your skin. I'd spent the day helping Jack and Emma unpack their books and toys in the cramped guest room we shared at my parents' house. Jack, with his mop of brown curls, carefully lined up his superhero figures, while Emma, always the planner, organized her sketchbooks by color. They were trying so hard to make this new space theirs, and I was determined to make it work. After all, I'd left behind a crumbling marriage to give them stability, even if it meant swallowing my pride and moving back home at 35. I'm a pediatric nurse, used to soothing scared kids and anxious parents, so I thought I could handle anything. Until that dinner. The table was set with Mom's favorite blue china, the kind she only brought out for special occasions. Stephen and his wife Laura sat across from me, their newborn Lily, cooing in a bassinet beside them. My parents hovered over her, their smiles so wide I thought their faces might crack. "Isn't she just perfect?" Dad said, not looking at me or my kids. Jack, picking at his peas, glanced at me, his eyes asking a question I couldn't answer. Emma's fork clinked against her plate, her shoulders hunched. I forced a smile, my fingers tightening around my napkin. "She's adorable," I said, my voice steady despite the ache in my chest. But inside I was screaming, "What about my kids?" The conversation swirled around Stephen's promotion, Laura's baby shower, and Lily's every gurgle. I tried to chime in, mentioning Emma's art award from school. "She drew this amazing landscape," I said, nudging Emma to share. She shyly started to speak, but Mom cut her off. "Stephen, tell us more about your new office," she said, her eyes locked on him. Emma's voice faded, her hands retreating to her lap. Jack's foot tapped under the table, a restless rhythm I knew meant he felt invisible. I reached for his hand, squeezing it, but the hurt in his eyes mirrored mine. Then came the moment that cracked something deep inside me. Dad, pouring wine, said, "Stephen, you've made us so proud. This family's future is bright because of you." The words landed like a punch. I waited, hoping he'd acknowledge my years of late shifts, my fight to keep my kids grounded through the divorce, anything. But nothing came. Laura smirked, adjusting Lily's blanket, while Stephen leaned back, basking in the praise. My throat tightened, but I swallowed it down. "Jack, Emma, let's clear the table," I said, standing abruptly. Their small hands grabbed plates, eager to escape. In the kitchen, alone with the hum of the dishwasher, I gripped the counter, my knuckles whitening. This wasn't new. Stephen had always been the golden child, but it was worse now. Moving in was supposed to be temporary, a way to rebuild, but it felt like we'd walked into a house where we didn't belong. Jack tugged at my sleeve. "Mom, why don't they care about us?" His voice was small and it broke me. I knelt, pulling him and Emma close. "They do, sweetheart," I lied, my heart pounding. "We're enough for each other." But as I hugged them, a spark flickered in me. I wasn't going to let this family erase us. I'd find a way to make things right, even if it meant tearing everything apart. That hug in the kitchen lingered, my arms wrapped tight around Jack and Emma, their small bodies pressing into mine, as if we could shield each other from the world outside. The dishwasher churned on, a low rumble that matched the storm building in my chest. I pulled back just enough to look at their faces, Jack's wide eyes searching mine for reassurance, Emma's lower lip trembling slightly before she bit it to hold steady. "Let's go upstairs," I whispered, my voice barely above the noise. We slipped away from the laughter echoing from the dining room, where my parents and Stephen were still toasting to his perfect life. Each step up the creaky stairs felt heavier, like carrying the weight of years unspoken. In our shared room, the kids settled on the bed, kicking off their shoes with quiet thuds. I sat between them, my hands resting on their knees, feeling the warmth of their skin through their pants. The room was dim, lit only by a bedside lamp that cast long shadows on the walls lined with half-unpacked boxes. "You know," I started, my throat tight, "this isn't the first time things have felt uneven." Emma tilted her head, her ponytail swinging. "What do you mean, Mom?" Jack leaned in, his fingers twisting the hem of his shirt, a habit he had when he was unsure. I took a deep breath, the air tasting stale from the old house. Memories flooded in, sharp and unbidden, like flipping through a photo album I'd tried to bury. "Remember when I graduated nursing school?" I said, my eyes drifting to the window where moonlight filtered through the curtains. It was 8 years ago, right after the twins were born. I'd studied nights while working part-time, pumping breast milk between classes, my eyes burning from lack of sleep. The ceremony was in a stuffy auditorium, the air thick with the scent of flowers and sweat. I walked across that stage, diploma in hand, feeling a rush of pride that made my hands shake. But when I looked out at the crowd, my parents were there. Barely. Mom checked her watch midway through, and Dad whispered something to Stephen about his upcoming job interview. No cheers, no flowers. Later, at the small dinner I planned, they toasted briefly to me before shifting to Stephen's promotion at his tech firm. "He's climbing the ladder so fast," Dad had said, his glass raised high, while my achievement sat like an afterthought. Emma's hand slipped into mine, her fingers cool and small. "That sounds mean," she murmured. I nodded, squeezing gently, feeling the ridges of her knuckles. Jack's foot bounced on the mattress, a soft thump-thump that echoed my heartbeat. "And it didn't stop there," I continued, my voice dropping as another memory surfaced. "When the twins turned 5, I threw them a backyard party, streamers fluttering in the breeze, a cake I'd baked myself with lopsided icing that read, 'Happy Birthday, Heroes.' The kids ran around, laughing, their faces smeared with chocolate. But my parents arrived late, arms full of gifts for Stephen's wedding anniversary, which just happened to be the same weekend. They cooed over photos of his honeymoon on their phones while Jack and Emma opened presents alone. "Stephen's starting a real family now," Mom had said, her eyes misty, as if my kids weren't right there, blowing out candles. I remember clenching the cake knife so hard my palm ached, forcing a smile while inside I seethed. The kids shifted closer, Emma's head on my shoulder, her hair tickling my neck. I could smell the faint strawberry shampoo from their bath earlier. "Then there was my big work award," I said, the words tasting bitter. 2 years ago I'd been named Nurse of the Year at the hospital, for handling a tough case with a kid who reminded me of Jack, fighting through nights of fevers and fears. The banquet was fancy, crystal glasses clinking, speeches droning on. I stood at the podium, my voice steady as I thanked my team, but my eyes scanned for family. Stephen was there, but only because Laura dragged him. My parents begged off with traffic. The next week, though, when Stephen closed a deal at work, they threw him a surprise party. Balloons, catered food, the works. Dad slapped him on the back, booming, "That's my boy," while my plaque gathered dust on a shelf they never noticed. Jack's eyes narrowed, his small fist balling up the bedsheet. "Why do they like Uncle Stephen more?" he asked, his voice cracking just a bit. I pulled him in, feeling his heartbeat against my side, fast and furious. "It's not about like, buddy, it's old patterns." But even as I said it, the truth clawed at me. Stephen's successes were always the right ones. Marriage, career climb, now a baby. Mine, a divorce, single mom gig, a job that left me exhausted but fulfilled. They'd pat my back occasionally, but never with the glow they gave him. Like the time I ran a marathon for charity, crossing the finish line drenched and triumphant, legs burning. They sent a text, "Good job." But Stephen's golf tournament win? A full family outing to celebrate. Emma yawned, her eyelids drooping, but she fought it, her hand still in mine. "Does it hurt, Mom?" she whispered. I nodded, honest for once, my chest tightening as tears pricked my eyes. "Yeah, it does. But we're building our own story." as they drifted off, their breaths evening out. I sat there in the quiet, the lamp's light flickering. The favoritism wasn't just words, it was in every overlooked milestone, every sidelined joy. It made me feel like a ghost in my own family, fading while Stephen shone. But holding my kids, feeling their trust, that spark from earlier, grew. I wouldn't let this define us. I'd make sure they never felt this invisible again. That resolve settled over me like a blanket as I watched Jack and Emma sleep, their chests rising and falling in sync, the soft whistle of Jack's breath mixing with Emma's occasional sigh. I eased off the bed carefully, the mattress creaking under my weight, and tiptoed to the door, my hand lingering on the knob before clicking it shut. The hallway was dark, the faint glow from the living room downstairs, where my parents and Stephen were probably still chatting, their voices a murmur that grated on my nerves. I paused at the top of the stairs, my fingers tracing the worn banister, splintery in spots from years of neglect. The spark in me wasn't just anger anymore, it was clarity, sharp and insistent, demanding action. I slipped into the bathroom, the tile cold under my bare feet, and locked the door with a soft snick. The mirror fogged slightly from my breath as I leaned in, staring at my reflection. Tired eyes, lines around my mouth from too many forced smiles. "Enough," I whispered, the word fogging the glass further. It hit me then, that aha moment crashing like a wave. The hurtful slight at dinner wasn't isolated, it was the final straw in a pile that had been building since childhood. My kids deserved better than this shadow life, and so did I. No more waiting for my parents to see us. I'd build our escape, brick by invisible brick, starting now. My phone was in my pocket, warm from being close to my body. I pulled it out, my thumb hovering over the screen before unlocking it with a quick swipe. The blue light stung my eyes in the dim room, but I blinked it away, opening the browser to search for rentals, quietly, secretly. My heart pounded as I typed, "affordable houses near hospital," my fingers tapping lightly to avoid any noise. Results popped up. Modest homes, 2 bedrooms, maybe a yard for the kids. I scrolled, my breath shallow, imagining Jack kicking a ball, Emma drawing under a tree. But doubt crept in. My nurse's salary was steady but stretched thin after the divorce, alimony sporadic at best. How could I swing this? I sat on the edge of the tub, the porcelain cool against my legs, and dug deeper. One listing caught my eye, a small bungalow, rent-to-own option, close to work. I clicked, zooming in on photos, the kitchen with its sunny window, bedrooms just big enough. My pulse quickened, but fear twisted in my gut. What if I couldn't qualify? I minimized the tab and opened my banking app, logging in with trembling fingers. Balance enough for a deposit maybe, if I skimped on everything else. I transferred a small amount to savings, watching the numbers shift, feeling a mix of thrill and terror. This was real. Planning behind their backs, while they laughed downstairs. The next morning came too soon, sunlight slanting through the curtains as I woke to Emma's gentle shake. "Mom, breakfast?" she asked, her eyes hopeful. I nodded, stretching, my body heavy from a night of fitful sleep filled with dreams of locked doors and endless hallways. Downstairs, the kitchen smelled of coffee and toast, Mom humming as she poured cereal. Stephen had left early, but the favoritism lingered like a bad aftertaste. "Morning," I said, my voice neutral, grabbing bowls for the kids. Dad glanced up from his newspaper, grunting a hello without looking. I busied myself buttering toast with quick strokes, my mind already racing ahead to the day. At work, the hospital buzzed with the usual chaos, beeping monitors, kids' cries, the sterile scent of antiseptic. During my break, I huddled in the staff lounge, the vinyl chair squeaking as I sat. Phone out again, I emailed the realtor from the listing, my fingers flying, interested in viewing, single mom, nurse, good credit. Send. My leg bounced under the table, the formica sticky from spilled coffee. Waiting felt endless, each minute ticking by as I sipped lukewarm tea, burning my tongue in haste. The reply came mid-shift, vibrating in my scrubs pocket while I was checking a patient's IV. I excused myself to the hallway, leaning against the wall, the paint chipped under my shoulder. "Available tomorrow, bring proof of income." My breath caught. Progress, but the struggle intensified. That night, back home, I printed documents in the den after everyone slept, the printer's hum low and risky. I crept downstairs, heart hammering, flipping on the light just enough to see. Papers in hand, pay stubs, references. I stuffed them in a folder, hiding it under my mattress like a guilty secret. Days blurred into a grind. Viewings squeezed between shifts, I drove to the bungalow, tires crunching on gravel, the realtor's handshake firm but questioning. "Divorced?" she asked, eyeing my ringless finger. I nodded, chin up, touring the rooms with forced calm, noting the creaky floors, the outdated stove. "It'll do," I thought, picturing us there, free. Applications followed. Forms filled at midnight, my eyes straining under the desk lamp, pen scratching as I detailed my life in black ink. Rejections came first. Income too low. Each email a gut punch, making me clench the phone until my nails dug in. But I pushed on, refining my search, calling lenders during lunch, whispering into the phone amid cafeteria noise. One evening, after tucking the kids in, Jack clutching his stuffed bear, Emma murmuring about school, I sat on the floor back against the bed, scrolling listings again. A coworker tipped me off to a program for essential workers. Lower deposits, flexible terms. I applied, uploading scans with shaky hands, the upload bar crawling slowly. Weeks of waiting, nails bitten short, sleep stolen in snippets. Then the call, during a quiet shift, phone buzzing in my locker. I stepped out, corridor empty, answering with a hushed, "Hello?" Approval. The bungalow was mine. Keys in a week. I sank against the wall, knees buckling slightly, tears hot on my cheeks. Triumph surged, hidden and sweet. Amid the family neglect, more dinners ignoring us, Stephen's baby stealing the spotlight, I'd built this fortress secretly. No one knew, not even the kids yet. I wiped my face, straightened up, pocketing the phone. The struggle had been brutal, but the success, it was ours, waiting to set us free. The approval email still glowed on my phone screen as I tucked it away, my fingers lingering on the case, feeling the slight warmth from the battery. It was late. The house quiet except for the distant tick of the grandfather clock in the hall, each second marking time towards something I couldn't yet name. I stood in the bathroom, the same cold tiles underfoot, but now a secret thrummed in my veins like a second heartbeat. Keys in a week, our escape hatch, hidden and ready. I splashed water on my face, droplets clinging to my lashes, and stared at the mirror again, seeing not just exhaustion, but a glint of steel in my eyes. "We've got this," I mouthed, wiping my face with a towel that smelled faintly of laundry detergent, soft against my skin. Morning broke with the usual routine, sunlight piercing the curtains in our room as Jack stirred first, his arm flopping over the edge of the bed. Emma mumbled in her sleep, clutching her pillow. I watched them for a moment, my chest swelling with a mix of love and urgency. Today was the day before the big family lunch. Mom's monthly bonding, as she called it, though it felt more like a stage for Stephen's triumphs. I hadn't told anyone about the house yet, it was my armor tucked close. I slipped out of bed, feet padding on the carpet, and headed downstairs to start coffee, the machine gurgling as grounds hissed into the filter. The kitchen was bathed in morning light, counters cluttered with baby bottles from Lily's last visit. Stephen and Laura had dropped by yesterday, leaving their mark. I pushed them aside with a clatter, my jaw tightening, and poured cereal for the kids. Tensions had been simmering all week, little digs, like Mom asking me to babysit Lily since you're home anyway, ignoring my shifts. Or Dad praising Stephen's family man status in passing conversations, his newspaper rustling as he spoke without glancing up. Stephen's family was taking center stage, their needs expanding like a balloon in our cramped space. I'd overheard Mom on the phone, cooing about converting rooms for the grandbaby's comfort. My stomach twisted at the memory, but I shoved it down, focusing on the steam rising from my mug, hot against my palms. Jack bounded in first, hair tousled, grabbing a spoon with a metallic clink. "What's for the lunch tomorrow, Mom?" he asked, milk dribbling down his chin. I wiped it with a napkin, the paper soft and absorbent. "Grandma's making lasagna, I think, and we'll bring the salad." Emma joined us, yawning, her feet dragging on the linoleum. We ate in relative peace, the radio humming low with morning news, but my mind raced. The gathering loomed like a storm cloud. Reluctant didn't cover it. I dreaded the way it amplified everything, Stephen's baby the star, while my twins faded into props. After breakfast, I herded them to get dressed, Jack's shirt inside out at first, Emma fussing over mismatched socks. "Hurry up, we've got errands," I said, my voice light but edged. We piled into the car, the engine rumbling to life, seatbelts clicking. First stop, grocery store for salad ingredients. The aisles were bright and buzzing, carts squeaking. I pushed ours, wheels wobbling slightly, grabbing lettuce with crisp snaps, tomatoes firm under my fingers. Jack tossed in carrots, grinning, while Emma eyed the candy aisle longingly. "Not today," I murmured, steering away, my hand on her shoulder, warm and small. But inside, anxiety gnawed. Tomorrow's lunch would be another showcase, and with the house secret burning in me, every preparation felt like arming for battle. Back home, I unloaded bags, plastic rustling, placing veggies in the fridge with thuds. Mom was in the living room, dusting shelves, her cloth swishing. "Isabella, can you help set up for tomorrow?" she called, not looking back. I paused, bag in hand, feeling the crinkle. "Sure," I replied, tone even, though my pulse quickened. We worked side by side, unfolding the extra table leaf with a wooden groan, spreading the cloth that billowed like a sail. Her hands smoothed wrinkles, rings glinting, while mine gripped the edges, knuckles paling. Conversation stayed surface, weather, work. But under it, the simmer, her offhand comment about Stephen's growing family needing space, landed like a barb. I nodded, lips pressed, folding napkins with sharp creases. Lunch for us was simple sandwiches, bread crunching under teeth, but my appetite was gone. Afternoon brought more prep. I chopped veggies in the kitchen, knife thudding on the board, onions stinging my eyes to tears. Jack and Emma played outside, their laughter filtering through the window, balls bouncing on grass. I watched them, blade pausing mid-slice, a fierce protectiveness surging. This house, once a refuge, now felt like a cage, Stephen's influence crowding us out. Laura had texted earlier, "Can't wait for tomorrow, Lily's new outfit is adorable." I stared at the screen, thumb hovering, replying with a thumbs-up emoji that felt hollow. As evening fell, shadows lengthening across the yard, I bathed the kids. Bubbles foamed in the tub, Jack splashing lightly, Emma shaping foam castles. "Will Uncle Stephen bring Lily?" Jack asked, water dripping from his arms. "Probably," I said, soaping his hair, suds sliding down. Emma's eyes met mine, perceptive. "Do they like her more?" Her voice was quiet, echoing off tiles. I rinsed her gently, water warm, heart aching. "No, sweetie, we're just as important." Lie or not, it steadied me. Dried and in pajamas, they climbed into bed. Stories read with my voice soft, pages turning. Alone later, I paced the room, floorboards creaking underfoot. The secret house loomed in my thoughts. Keys soon, a fresh start. But tomorrow's gathering hung heavy, unaware it was the eve of something shattering. I folded laundry, clothes snapping, stacking neatly. My parents' voices drifted up, planning seating. Stephen near us for the baby. I clenched a shirt, fabric bunching. Reluctance turned to resolve. I'd endure, but with eyes open. Slipping under covers, the sheet cool, I stared at the ceiling, cracks like veins. Sleep came fitful, dreams of doors slamming, but deep down, that spark held. Whatever betrayal brewed, I'd be ready to flip the script. Morning light filtered through the cracks in the curtains, pulling me from a restless sleep where doors had slammed endlessly in my dreams. I blinked awake, the ceiling's veins staring back, and for a moment the weight of the day pressed down like a heavy quilt. The house was already stirring, clatters from the kitchen below, the scent of baking lasagna wafting up the stairs, rich with tomato and cheese. I swung my legs over the bed's edge, feet meeting the cool floor, toes curling against the chill. Jack and Emma were still asleep, tangled in sheets, their faces peaceful in a way that twisted my heart. Today was the family lunch, the bonding that felt more like a trial, and with Stephen's clan arriving soon, the air already hummed with anticipation, not for us, but for them. I shook them gently, my hands on their shoulders, feeling the warmth of their skin through pajamas. "Time to get up, guys," I whispered, voice soft to ease the transition. Jack groaned, burrowing deeper, while Emma sat up, rubbing her eyes with the backs of her hands. We dressed in silence, me in a simple blouse and jeans, buttoning with steady fingers despite the knot in my stomach. The kids chose their favorites, Jack in his superhero tee, Emma in a flowered dress that swished as she moved. Downstairs, Mom was at the stove, stirring sauce with a wooden spoon that scraped the pot's bottom. "Morning," I said, grabbing plates, the ceramic cool in my palms. She nodded, barely glancing, her focus on the oven timer ticking away. The table was already half set, extra chairs dragged in with scuffs on the floor. I helped lay out forks and knives, the metal clinking, each sound amplifying my unease. Dad shuffled in, coffee mug in hand, steam curling up. "Big day," he muttered, sipping with a slurp, eyes on the newspaper spread before him. No mention of us, just the routine. The kids ate toast at the counter, crumbs falling, Jack's foot swinging against the stool leg in a rhythmic tap. I watched them, sipping my own coffee, the bitterness matching my mood. The secret house key pickup was in days, our ticket out, but today, I had to endure. Mask on. The doorbell rang sharp and insistent, jolting me. Stephen and Laura arrived, arms laden with baby gear. A diaper bag slung over Laura's shoulder, Stephen cradling Lily in her carrier. Mom rushed over, cooing, her hands fluttering to take the baby. "Oh, my precious girl," she exclaimed, voice high and doting, lifting Lily with gentle rocks. Dad beamed, setting his mug down with a thud to peer over. "Look at her smile," he said, finger wiggling in her tiny fist. Jack and Emma hovered near me, Emma's hand slipping into mine, fingers squeezing. I felt her tension, mirrored in my own grip. We moved to the living room, couches sagging as everyone settled. Laura perched on the edge, adjusting her blouse with a tug, while Stephen sprawled, legs crossed. "So Isabella," Laura started, her tone light but edged, eyes flicking to me over Lily's head. "How's the nursing gig? Still pulling those long shifts?" It was the first jab, disguised as interest, but I caught the undertone, like my job was a grind, not an achievement. I nodded, sitting straighter, the cushion dipping under me. "Busy as ever. Saved a kid from dehydration yesterday, felt good." But Mom interrupted, bouncing Lily. "Stephen, tell us about your new client. Sounds exciting." Her redirection stung, my words dissolving like sugar in rain. Stephen launched in, voice booming, hands gesturing wide. "Yeah, closed a deal worth 6 figures. They're expanding, and I'm leading the team." Dad slapped his knee, laughing. "That's my boy, making waves." Laura smiled smugly, stroking Lily's hair. Emma tugged my sleeve, whispering, "Mom, can we play outside?" Her eyes pleaded escape, but I shook my head slightly, thumb rubbing her hand. Jack fidgeted, picking at a loose thread on his shirt, unraveling it slowly. The barrage continued. "Isabella, you look tired," Mom said, glancing briefly, her rocking uninterrupted. "Maybe cut back on hours? Family first." The backhanded compliment landed hard, implying I neglected mine, while she ignored us for Lily. I forced a smile, lips tight, fingers clenching the armrest fabric. "I'm managing," I replied, voice even, though inside heat rose. Laura chimed in. "We hired a nanny for Lily, best decision, gives us time for couple stuff." Her eyes met mine, pitying, as if my single status was a flaw. Stephen nodded, arm around her. "Yeah, balance is key, not everyone gets it." The dig at my divorce was subtle but sharp, like a paper cut. Jack's foot stopped swinging. He stared at the floor, shoulders slumping. Emma leaned into me, her warmth a small comfort. As lunch neared, the oven beeped, steam escaping as Mom pulled out the dish, cheese bubbling. We migrated to the table, chairs scraping. I helped seat the kids, like napkins unfolding in their laps with soft rustles. But the seating, Stephen and Laura prime spots near parents, us shoved to the end. "Pass the bread," Dad said to Stephen, not me, even though it was closer. Compliments flowed. "Laura, you glow as a mom." "Stephen, proud of your hustle." "My salad contribution? Nice touch, Isabella. Simple but fine." The condescension dripped, each word making me grip my fork tighter, tines pressing into skin. Through it all I endured, nodding, serving seconds to the kids with quiet spoons. Their eyes met mine, questioning, hurt, and I squeezed their knees under the table, a silent promise. The favoritism wasn't new, but today it intensified, a gauntlet of slights building tension like a coiled spring. Lily fussed, and the room pivoted to her, my family invisible again. But that spark flickered stronger. I wouldn't break here. But that endurance cracked as the lunch dragged on, plates emptying slowly, the clatter of forks lessening into an uneasy quiet broken only by Lily's occasional babble. I pushed pasta around my plate, the sauce congealing, my appetite long gone under the weight of the slights. Jack had barely touched his food, his fork tracing patterns in the cheese, while Emma stared at her lap, her dress wrinkled from fidgeting hands. The air felt thicker now, charged with something unsaid, as Mom set down her glass with a deliberate clink, her eyes flicking between Stephen and Dad before landing on me. "We need to talk about something important," she said, her voice shifting from doting to firm like flipping a switch. Dad nodded beside her, folding his napkin with precise creases, his chair creaking as he leaned forward. I straightened, my spine pressing against the wooden back of my seat, a chill running down despite the warm room. "What is it?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral, though my fingers curled under the table, nails digging into my palms. Laura shifted Lily in her lap, the baby's tiny hand grasping at her necklace, while Stephen leaned back, arms crossed, a small smile playing on his lips that made my stomach turn. Mom cleared her throat, her hands clasping together on the tablecloth, knuckles whitening slightly. With Lily here now, and Stephen's family growing, we've been thinking about space. The house isn't as big as it used to feel. Her words hung there, innocuous at first, but I sensed the edge, like a blade hidden in velvet. Dad jumped in, his voice gruff, eyes fixed on the centerpiece flowers wilting in their vase. We've decided to make some changes. The guest room, where you and the kids are staying, it's perfect for a nursery, close to our room, plenty of light. He gestured vaguely upstairs, his hand waving as if it were a simple remodel. My breath caught, sharp and sudden like inhaling ice. The room, our room with the boxes still half unpacked, the kids' drawings taped to the walls. What do you mean? I managed, my voice low, glancing at Jack and Emma, whose heads snapped up, eyes wide. Jack's fork dropped with a clang, rolling under the table, but no one moved to pick it up. Mom's expression softened, but it was pity, not regret, her lips pursing. We've already started moving your things to the basement. It's got that old bed and dresser. Plenty of room for the three of you. Stephen and Laura need the space upstairs for Lily's crib and changing table. They're family too, and the baby deserves the best. The words landed like blows, each one heavier. Moved our things, without asking, without consent. I pictured it, their hands rifling through our clothes, toys scattered, the unsafe basement with its damp walls, flickering light and steep stairs that creaked ominously. Jack's superheroes, Emma's sketches, shoved into that dim hole like afterthoughts. You did what? I whispered, heat rising in my cheeks, my hands trembling as I gripped the table edge, the wood smooth and unyielding. Emma's face crumpled, her lower lip quivering, a small whimper escaping before she clamped it down. Jack reached for my arm under the table, his fingers cold and tight. Stephen spoke up then, his tone casual, like discussing weather. Come on, Izzy, it's not a big deal. The basement's fine, we used to play down there as kids. And with the baby, priorities change. Laura nodded, bouncing Lily gently, the motion rhythmic but her eyes sharp. It's for the greater good, you understand, right, as a mom? The escalation hit full force, the conversation turning into a verdict. Dad's face hardened, brows furrowing. We've supported you through the divorce, Isabella, but it's time you stand on your own. Stephen's building something real here. A legacy. We can't keep propping you up forever. Propping me up? The late nights I'd covered their bills when Dad's job faltered, the holidays I'd hosted to keep peace, erased in one sweep. Mom added, the basement has a lock, you'll have privacy. But upstairs is for the baby now. We've cleared it out this morning while you were at the store. This morning, while I chopped veggies, oblivious they'd betrayed us, my vision blurred, tears pricking but unshed, as anger surged, hot and raw. You moved our stuff without asking? The basement isn't safe, mold, those stairs. The kids could get hurt. My voice rose, cracking at the end, but they didn't flinch. Jack buried his face in my side, his body shaking. Muffled sobs against my blouse. Emma's tears fell silently, dripping onto her plate, splashing softly. Stephen shrugged, picking up his water glass, sipping calmly. Drama much? It's temporary. Get your own place if it's such an issue. The dismissal stung deepest, effectively cutting us off, not just from space but from belonging. Mom reached across, but her hand stopped short, withdrawing. This is final, Isabella. We're doing what's best for the family. The family, meaning Stephen's, not mine. Dad stood, chair scraping back harshly, signaling the end. Lunch is over, let's clean up. But I stayed seated, the room spinning slightly, my breath shallow. The announcement hung heavy, a formal disowning of our needs, our presence reduced to basement shadows. Inside, though, that secret spark roared to life. Not broken, but fueled. They thought they'd cornered me, but they had no idea what I'd built in the dark. The words, what's best for the family, echoed in my ears like a slamming door, the finality of it all settling over the table like a shroud. I sat frozen, my chair suddenly feeling too small, the wood digging into my thighs as if pinning me in place. Jack's sobs had quieted to hiccups against my side, his small hand clutching my shirt so tightly the fabric bunched in his fist. Emma wiped her tears with the back of her hand, smearing them across her cheek, her eyes red-rimmed and avoiding everyone's gaze. The room smelled of cooling lasagna, the once appetizing aroma now cloying and nauseating. Stephen pushed his plate away with a scrape, leaning back with that same smug cross of his arms, while Laura adjusted Lily's blanket, her fingers fussing unnecessarily as if to fill the silence. Mom and Dad exchanged a glance, their faces set in that united front I'd seen so many times, unyielding, convinced of their rightness. I opened my mouth to respond, but the words stuck, a lump forming in my throat that I swallowed hard again. "This isn't support," I finally managed, my voice hoarse, barely above a whisper at first. "You're pushing us into a corner, literally. The basement? With the kids? It's damp, unsafe. What if Jack falls on those stairs? What if Emma gets sick from the mold?" My hands gestured weakly, palms up, as if pleading for reason, but Dad just shook his head, his chair creaking as he shifted. "You're overreacting, Isabella. We've lived here for years. It's fine. Stephen turned out okay playing down there." Stephen chuckled low, a sound that grated like nails on chalkboard, his eyes meeting mine with a challenge. "Yeah, sis. Toughen up. Life's not fair." The humiliation peaked then, a wave crashing over me making my cheeks burn hot. Here I was, 35, a grown woman reduced to begging in my childhood home, my children's hurt laid bare for all to see. Emma's shoulders shook with silent cries now, her napkin twisted in her lap, threads pulling loose. Jack looked up at me, his face streaked, whispering, "Mom," in a voice so small it broke something inside. Laura cooed at Lily, deliberately ignoring us, while Mom started stacking plates with clatters as if the conversation was done. "We'll help you settle in down there tonight," she said matter-of-factly, her tone dismissing any further debate. It was the deepest cut, treated like tenants being evicted, our needs invalidated in one breath. My phone buzzed in my pocket then, a sharp vibration against my leg that jolted me. I ignored it at first, my focus on steadying my breath in and out, the air catching in my chest. But it buzzed again, insistent, and something, instinct maybe, made me pull it out, my fingers fumbling with the zipper of my pocket. The screen lit up, bright in the dimming afternoon light filtering through the windows. A notification, email from the realtor. My heart skipped, a sudden thud that echoed in my ears. I swiped to open it, thumb trembling slightly, the glass cool under my touch. "Congratulations, Isabella. All paperwork is finalized, keys available for pickup tomorrow morning. Welcome home." The words blurred for a second as tears welled, but not from pain, from a rush of empowerment that flooded me like sunlight breaking clouds. The house, our house, the bungalow with its sunny kitchen and safe bedrooms, was ready. No more waiting, no more secrets straining at the seams. I'd done this alone, through rejections and midnight applications, and here was the proof, digital and undeniable. My despair shifted in that instant, a pivot so sharp it left me breathless. Quiet power surged, straightening my spine, loosening my grip on the table. They thought they'd cornered us, but I'd built a door out. I set the phone down slowly, screen facing up, the email still open. No one noticed at first, too busy with their own narratives, Dad sipping water with a gulp, Mom's plates clinking in the sink now. But Stephen's eyes flicked to it, curiosity piqued. "What's that?" he asked, tone casual but probing. I met his gaze, steady now, the heat in my cheeks fading to cool resolve. "Nothing you need to worry about," I said, voice even, tucking the phone away with a deliberate slide. Inside, though, everything changed. The humiliation that had pinned me dissolved, replaced by a plan clicking into place. Tomorrow, keys in hand, we'd leave this toxicity behind. Jack sensed the shift, his grip easing, looking up with hopeful eyes. Emma sniffed, wiping her nose on her sleeve. The moment stretched, my family oblivious to the revelation humming in me. Laura stood, cradling Lily, her footsteps soft on the floor as she paced. "We should get going soon," she said to Stephen, who nodded, stretching with a yawn. But I sat there, replaying the email in my mind, each word a brick in my new foundation. The scale of my success, securing stability on my terms, unseen and unhelped, revealed itself fully. No fanfare, just quiet triumph. As they cleared the table around me, dishes rattling, I hugged the kids closer, my arms encircling them protectively. The external event, that simple buzz, had flipped the script. We weren't invisible. We were on the verge of freedom. We weren't trapped. We were steps from the door, and that knowledge steadied me as the dishes continued to rattle, Mom's hands stacking them with efficient clatters in the sink, water running in a steady stream. I released my hold on Jack and Emma just enough to stand, my chair sliding back with a slow scrape against the floor, the sound cutting through the post-lunch haze. Their small faces turned up to me, eyes questioning but trusting, and I gave them a subtle nod, my hand brushing Jack's hair lightly, feeling the soft curls under my fingers. The email's words burned in my mind, keys tomorrow, a new beginning, and it fueled a calm that spread through me like cool water over fire. Stephen noticed first, his eyebrow arching as he paused mid-reach for a leftover roll, crumbs flaking onto the tablecloth. "What's with the look?" he asked, tone laced with that familiar condescension, popping the bread into his mouth with a chew. I didn't answer immediately, instead helping Emma push her chair back, the legs wobbling slightly on the uneven floor. Laura cradled Lily closer, her arms tightening as if sensing a shift, the baby's blanket rustling softly. Dad turned from where he was wiping the table, cloth in hand dripping water droplets that pattered onto the wood. "Isabella, if you're going to argue more, save it. Decision's made." His voice was gruff, final, but I met his eyes steadily, my own unblinking, feeling the pulse in my neck slow to a deliberate rhythm. Mom shut off the faucet with a twist, the sudden silence amplifying the tension, and dried her hands on a towel, folding it neatly before facing me. "Let's not ruin the day further," she said, her lips pressing into a thin line, avoiding my gaze by focusing on straightening a napkin ring. But the scramble started when I spoke, my voice clear and even, cutting through their assumptions like a knife through butter. "Actually, I have something to say." I pulled out my phone again, holding it up briefly, the screen still glowing with the email, though I didn't let them read it yet. Jack stood beside me, his hand slipping into mine, fingers interlocking tightly, while Emma mirrored on the other side, her grip firm and warm. Stephen leaned forward, elbows on the table with a thud, curiosity overriding his smugness. "What? Another complaint? Spit it out." Laura shifted Lily to her shoulder, patting the baby's back in rhythmic thumps, her eyes narrowing. I took a breath, the air tasting of lingering garlic and betrayal, and began exposing the hypocrisy that had festered for years. "You've always chosen Stephen," I said, starting slow. My words measured as I gestured toward him with an open palm. No accusation in the motion, but truth in the tone. From childhood promotions to now, his baby gets a room but my kids get the basement, the unsafe, forgotten corner you wouldn't put a storage box in without worry. Mom's face flushed, her hands clenching the towel, twisting it slightly. "That's not fair, Isabella. We're helping everyone." But I shook my head, stepping closer to the table, my shoes scuffing the floor softly. "Helping? You moved our things without consent this morning, while I was prepping lunch for your family bonding. That's not help, that's erasure." Dad's cloth dropped to the table with a wet slap, his jaw tightening, but he said nothing, eyes flicking to Stephen as if for backup. Stephen snorted, pushing back his chair with a screech, standing to match my height. "Jealous much? I've earned this. Hard work, real family. You chose divorce, deal with it." His words stung, but I didn't flinch, instead turning the phone screen toward them, the email header visible. "Home approval confirmed." Laura's patting stopped, her hand freezing mid-air, while Lily let out a small fuss that went unheeded. "What's that?" Mom asked, voice wavering now, stepping forward with a hesitant shuffle, her slippers whispering on the linoleum. I explained calmly, my thumb scrolling slightly to show the details without handing it over. "I've been planning this for months, securing a house, our house, keys tomorrow. We won't need your basement or your help anymore." The stunned scramble erupted then. Dad's face paled, his hand reaching for the back of a chair to steady himself, knuckles whitening on the wood. "Wait, what? You can't just—" Mom interrupted him, her towel dropping to the floor with a soft thud, eyes wide. "Isabella, don't be rash. We can talk about this. The basement was just temporary." But her words rang hollow, and I exposed it further, my voice gaining strength, flowing like a released dam. "Temporary? Like how you celebrated Stephen's every win, but ignored mine? Nurse of the year, nothing. My kids' birthdays eclipsed by his anniversaries. You've made us invisible, and now, when it suits you, we're disposable." Stephen's arms uncrossed, hands balling into fists at his sides, his face reddening. "This is ridiculous. You're twisting everything. Mom, Dad, she's overreacting again." Laura joined in, standing now, Lily bouncing urgently in her arms as the babies sensed the unrest. Think of the family, Isabella. Leaving like this hurts everyone. But I laughed softly, a sound without humor, shaking my head as I gathered kids' jackets from the coat rack, the zippers jingling. Family? You mean Stephen's family. We've been the afterthought, the burden. But not anymore. Jack tugged my hand, whispering, "We're going?" And I nodded, squeezing back. Emma's eyes shone with a mix of fear and excitement, her free hand clutching her dress hem. Mom reached out, her hand trembling in the air between us. "Please, stay and discuss. We didn't mean..." But I cut her off gently, slipping on my jacket with smooth motions. "You did mean it. Actions show it. We're done being second." Dad finally spoke, voice cracking slightly. "Isabella, wait." But I didn't, guiding the kids to the door, their small steps quick beside mine. Stephen called after. "Fine, go, see how you manage without us." I paused at the threshold, doorknob cold in my palm, turning back for one last look, their faces a mix of shock and scrambling regret. "We've managed despite you, goodbye." The door clicked shut behind us, the sound powerful and final as we stepped into the fresh air, my heart pounding with liberation. The fresh air hit us like a promise as we stepped off the porch, the doors clicked behind us, echoing in my mind, final and freeing. Jack's hand stayed in mine, his fingers loosening just a bit as we walked down the driveway, gravel crunching under our shoes, while Emma skipped a step to keep up, her dress swishing softly. The sun hung low, casting long shadows from the trees, and the neighborhood hummed with distant lawnmowers and kids' golf laughter, normal sounds that felt worlds away from the toxicity we'd just left. My car waited at the curb, keys jingling in my pocket as I unlocked it with a beep, doors thunking open. "In you go," I said, voice lighter than I felt, helping them buckle up, the belts clicking securely. We drove off without looking back, the house shrinking in the rearview mirror, a chapter closing. That night we crashed at my friend Maria's place, my coworker from the hospital, the one who'd cheered my secret house hunt with late-night texts and coffee runs. Her apartment smelled of fresh popcorn and lavender candles, a cozy contrast to the stiff air at my parents'. The kids curled on her pull-out couch, exhausted, their breaths evening out quickly under borrowed blankets that rustled with each shift. Maria handed me a mug of tea, steam curling up, her hand patting my shoulder firmly. "You're doing the right thing," she whispered, and I nodded, sipping the hot liquid, feeling it warm my core. Sleep came easier there, no creaking stairs or judgmental echoes. Morning brought the key pickup, the realtor's office buzzing with phones ringing and papers shuffling. I signed the final forms, pen scratching across lines, my signature bold and sure. The keys dropped into my palm, metal cool and heavy, a tangible victory. "Congratulations," the realtor said, handshake firm, and I smiled genuinely for the first time in days. Back in the car, Jack bounced in his seat, seatbelt straining. "Our new house?" he asked, eyes wide. Emma leaned forward, ponytail swinging. "Yeah, Mom." I glanced at them in the mirror, their faces hopeful, and nodded. "Ours." We pulled up to the bungalow, tires rolling to a stop on the cracked driveway. The house modest but ours, white siding, a small porch with room for chairs. Friends arrived soon after, Maria with boxes, her car trunk popping open, my neighbor from the old apartment, Tom, hauling a toolbox that clanked, and Sarah, another nurse buddy, carrying takeout bags that crinkled invitingly. No blood family, but these allies, chosen ones, who'd seen my struggles without judgment. "Let's make this home," Maria said, rolling up her sleeves with a grin, fabric whispering. The front door creaked open, key turning smoothly, and we stepped inside, the air musty but full of potential. Sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, dust motes dancing. Jack ran ahead, shoes squeaking on the hardwood, exploring rooms with whoops. "This one's mine," he claimed, flopping on a bare floor that echoed his laugh. Emma trailed, her fingers tracing walls, leaving faint smudges. I set down the first box with a thud, labeled kitchen, and unpacked mugs, ceramic clinking as I placed them in cabinets that swung open easily. Tom hammered nails for shelves, the rhythmic bangs filling the space, while Sarah wiped counters, cloth swishing over surfaces, the scent of lemon cleaner cutting the dust. Maria helped with the kids' rooms, unfolding bedsheets that billowed like sails, tucking them in with precise folds. "Remember that shift when you nailed that diagnosis?" she said to me, snapping a pillowcase. "You're tough, Is. This is your win." I nodded, stacking books on a shelf, spines aligning neatly, feeling warmth spread, not from pity but genuine pride. Jack tugged Tom's sleeve asking about tools and Tom knelt, showing him a screwdriver, metal glinting, their heads bent close in explanation. Lunch was pizza from the bags, boxes opening with steam rising, cheese stretching as we pulled slices. We sat on the floor in a circle, legs crossed, paper plates crinkling in laps. Laughter bubbled, Sarah recounting hospital mishaps, her hands gesturing wildly, Tom joking about his own move disasters, voice booming. Emma giggled, sauce on her chin, while Jack mimicked Tom's hammer swings, arm pumping. No backhanded comments, no favoritism, just easy camaraderie, forks scraping plates, soda cans popping open. I watched them, my back against the wall, cool plaster grounding me, a stark contrast to yesterday's toxic dinner where every word had been a weapon. As afternoon wore on, we hung curtains, rods sliding into brackets with clicks, fabric falling in soft waves. Maria and I arranged the living room, couch cushions plumping under punches, throw pillows tossed playfully. "Your parents don't know what they're missing," she murmured, fluffing one, fibers soft. I shrugged, but inside the difference hit hard, the biological ties that bound and bruised versus this chosen warmth that lifted. Tom fixed a leaky faucet, water dripping then stopping with a twist, while Sarah organized toys, bins snapping shut. The kids painted welcome signs, brushes dipping in paint pots, colors smearing on paper that we taped to walls with sticky rips. Evening light softened, golden through windows as we finished. The house felt lived in already, scents of paint and pizza mingling, floors tracked with footprints. Hugs goodbye, Maria's tight, reassuring, Tom's backslap firm, Sarah's quick peck on the cheek. "Call if you need anything," they chorused, car doors slamming outside. Alone with the kids, we sat on the couch, springs creaking, their heads on my shoulders, warm and heavy. "This is better," Emma whispered, hand in mine, fingers intertwining. Jack nodded, yawning. The genuine moment wrapped us. No invisible feelings, just love in micro-motions, breath sinking, heart steady. Compared to the family's cold hierarchy, this was real family, built on choice and care. That sense of real family lingered in the quiet of our new living room. The couch still smelling faintly of fresh fabric softener from the wash I'd done earlier, as Jack and Emma finally drifted off, their heads heavy on my laps, breaths deep and even. I sat there for a while, the lamp casting a soft glow that danced shadows on the walls we'd just painted a pale blue. Calm, like the sky after a storm. My phone buzzed on the coffee table, a persistent vibration that rattled the coasters slightly, but I ignored it at first, not ready to shatter this peace. It buzzed again, then a third time, each one pulling me back to the aftermath I knew was coming. The screen lit up with missed calls. Mom, Dad, even Steven. Texts piled in. "Call us, we need to talk, don't do this." My thumb hovered over the delete button, the glass cool under my touch, but I set it down instead, screen facing away, the light dimming to black. Morning came with sunlight slanting through the new curtains, warming the floorboards that creaked under my feet as I padded to the kitchen. The kids were still asleep, the house hushed except for the drip of the coffee maker I'd set up last night, grounds hissing as hot water filtered through. I poured a mug, steam rising in lazy curls, and sat at the small table, its surface smooth and unmarked. No family scratches yet. The phone waited on the counter. Charging cord snaking across the granite I'd wiped clean. Another buzz, a voicemail notification. I sipped the coffee, bitter and strong, steeling myself before pressing play, holding the phone to my ear, the speaker crackling slightly. Mom's voice filled the air, tinny but urgent. "Isabella, please pick up. We were wrong, rushed into things. Come back, or at least let's meet. The kids need their grandparents." It ended with a sigh, heavy and pleading. Then Dad's message, gruffer. "This is silly. Basement was a mistake, but running off, call me." Steven's text followed. "Overreacting as usual. Lily misses her cousins. Lunch Sunday?" Laura even chimed in. "Thinking of you. Hope you're okay." The attempts poured in, a scramble of reconciliation that felt more like damage control than genuine remorse. I set the phone down with a soft click, my fingers lingering on the case, feeling the ridges of the protective cover. No apologies for the years of favoritism, just pleased to smooth over the latest blow. I stood, pacing the kitchen, socks whispering on the tile, my mind racing through responses. This was the aftermath, their outreach, probing the boundaries I'd just erected. I couldn't let them breach so soon. Our peace was fragile, like the eggshells I'd walked on for too long. Jack wandered in then, rubbing his eyes with balled fists, hair sticking up in tufts. "Who's calling?" he asked, voice sleepy, climbing onto a chair with a scrape. I knelt to his level, hands on his knees, feeling the bony warmth. "Grandma and Grandpa, Uncle Stephen too." Emma appeared, yawning, her ponytail lopsided from sleep. "Do we have to go back?" Her question hung, small but weighted, her fingers twisting the hem of her nightshirt. "No," I said firmly, standing to pour them juice, glasses clinking on the counter. "We're setting rules now. Our home, our choices." As they ate cereal, spoons tinkling against bowls, milk splashing lightly, I drafted a group text, thumbs tapping the screen deliberately. "We need space. What happened wasn't just the basement, it's years of feeling second. Contact me only if it's an emergency. No visits until I say, respect this, or no contact at all." Send. The whoosh sound felt final, my shoulders relaxing a fraction as I exhaled, breath fogging the phone screen briefly. But they didn't stop easily. By afternoon, as we unpacked more boxes, books thudding onto shelves, toys rattling into bins, another call came. I answered this one, speaker on, placing the phone on the table amid wrapping paper crinkles. Mom's voice. "Isabella, honey, let's not be hasty, we can fix the room back." I folded a towel, fabric snapping sharply. "It's not about the room, Mom, it's about always choosing Stephen. My achievements ignored, my kids sidelined." Silence stretched, then her sniffle, soft and wavering. "We didn't mean, Stephen's just successful in ways we understand." The hypocrisy again exposed in her hesitation. "And I'm not, nursing sick kids, raising mine alone. That's success too, but you never saw it." Dad joined the line, his voice booming through the speaker, making Emma flinch slightly. "Come over, talk in person." I shook my head, though they couldn't see, my hand steadying a wobbly stack of plates. "No, boundaries, calls only when I initiate, no guilting the kids." Jack watched, spoon paused midair, drips falling back into his bowl. "We're happy here," I added, voice steady. They pushed, "But family," and I cut in. "Family respects each other, you didn't. This is how we engage now, on my terms." I ended the call with a tap, the screen going dark, my pulse steady despite the ache. Stephen texted next, "This is petty. Blocking you out hurts Mom and Dad." I replied quick, "Petty? Like moving our stuff secretly? No more. Emergencies only. Block." The action felt like locking a door, firm and necessary. Laura's message, "For the kids' sake." I ignored it, deleting with a swipe, focusing on hanging pictures, nails tapping into walls, frames aligning with careful adjustments. The kids helped, their small hands holding levels, bubbles centering perfectly. "No more sad dinners," Jack said, grinning, his tooth gap showing. Emma nodded, hammering lightly, the sound echoing our resolve. Evening brought reflection as I tucked them in, sheets tucking snug, their rooms now personalized with posters peeling at edges from the move. "What if they come over?" Emma whispered, eyes wide in the dim light. I sat on the bed's edge, mattress dipping, hand stroking her hair, strands soft. "They won't because I said no. Our fortress, remember?" Jack from his bed. "Like superheroes?" I smiled, nodding, pulling blankets up with gentle tugs. "Exactly, we decide who enters." Alone in my room, the bed creaking as I sat, I journaled, pen scratching paper, words flowing, rules clear, peace prioritized. The family's attempts faded as I enforced them, each ignored call a brick in my wall. No more invisibility, this was engagement redefined, healthy boundaried hours. That journaling became a nightly ritual in the weeks that followed, the pen's nib scratching against the paper in the quiet of my bedroom, the lamp's warm light pooling on the desk like a spotlight on my thoughts. The house had settled into a rhythm, mornings with the kids' laughter echoing off the walls as they raced to the kitchen, spoons clinking in cereal bowls, evenings with homework spread on the table, pencils tapping rhythms. But tonight, as I closed the notebook with a soft snap, the leather cover cool under my fingers, a deeper realization stirred. Success wasn't just the house or the boundaries. It was what I built from here, turning the pain into purpose, reclaiming a legacy that had never truly been mine. My family name, once synonymous with Stephen's shine, could mean something real through me, through actions that echoed beyond blood. The trigger came unexpectedly. During a shift at the hospital the next day, the pediatric ward buzzed with its usual controlled chaos, monitors beeping in steady pulses, nurses' shoes squeaking on linoleum, the faint scent of antiseptic mingling with cafeteria coffee. I was checking on little Mia, a 7-year-old with a persistent fever, her small hand limp in mine as I adjusted her IV drip, the tube cool and flexible. Her mom, Carla, sat bedside, fingers twisting a tissue into shreds, eyes red from worry. "She's all I have," Carla whispered, her voice cracking like thin ice, leaning forward in the vinyl chair that creaked under her shift. It hit me then, the mirror of my own fight, single mom scraping by, feeling invisible in a world that prioritized perfect families. I paused, the clipboard in my other hand feeling heavy, pen hovering over the chart. "I get it," I said softly, meeting her eyes, seeing the exhaustion etched in lines around them. "My twins and I, we just moved out of a bad spot. Family didn't see us." Carla's tissue stilled, her gaze sharpening. "How'd you manage?" she asked, voice barely above the hum of the oxygen machine. I set the clipboard down with a gentle thud on the side table, pulling up a stool, its legs scraping lightly. "Saved every penny, found a program for essential workers like us, got a place that's ours, no one else's rules." Her shoulders relaxed a fraction, the tissue unclenching in her lap. That conversation lingered as I finished rounds, pushing the med cart with its wheels rumbling softly, dispensing pills into cups that rattled. Mia's fever broke by afternoon, her cheeks gaining color, but Carla's words echoed, "Wish I had that strength." I clocked out, scrubs rustling as I changed in the locker room, the metal door clanging shut. Driving home, wipers swishing against a light rain that pattered on the windshield, I mulled it over. My success as a nurse wasn't just shifts, it was impact. Reclaiming my legacy meant using it, helping others like Carla, redefining family name as one of resilience, not favoritism. At home, the kids greeted me with hugs, Jack's arms tight around my waist, Emma's cheek pressing warm against my side. "What's for dinner?" Jack asked, nose wrinkling at the rain on my coat. I hung it up, drip drip on the mat, and we cooked together. Pasta boiling in the pot, steam fogging the window, sauce simmering with garlic pops. Over dinner, forks twirling noodles, I shared about Mia and Carla, keeping it light. "Some families struggle like we did," I said, wiping sauce from Emma's chin with a napkin fold. Jack's eyes lit up. "Can we help?" Emma nodded, chewing thoughtfully. Their eagerness sparked it, a plan forming, micro-actions building to something bigger. Next morning before work, I sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, keys clicking as I researched support groups for single parents. The screen glowed, links loading with soft whirs. Found one local, meetings at the community center, focus on housing and emotional aid. I emailed the organizer, fingers flying, "Nurse here, recent single mom. Want to volunteer, share resources, maybe lead a session." Send. The whoosh felt like a step forward. At work, I approached my supervisor, badge clipping to my scrubs with a snap. "Thinking of starting a hospital program. Tips for parents like me." She nodded, hand on my shoulder, warm and encouraging. "Great idea, Isabella. Let's pitch it." The positive impact unfolded gradually but deeply. First volunteer night, community center smelled of coffee and old books, chairs scraping into a circle. I stood, hands clasped to hide the slight tremble, sharing my story, not for pity, but power. I felt invisible, but I built a home. Here's how: programs, budgets. Women nodded, one tearing up, tissue dabbing eyes. Carla showed, surprise hug, her arms squeezing tight. "You inspired me," she whispered, perfume faint. I handed out flyers, paper rustling, listing aid sites I'd compiled, staples pinching fingers. With the kids, we made it family, baking cookies for the group, dough sticking to counters, oven dinging. For the moms, Emma said, decorating with sprinkles that scattered like confetti. Jack boxed them, tape ripping. At the hospital, the program launched. Workshops in the lounge, chairs arranged, handouts folding neatly. Parents attended, questions flowing. "How to afford rent?" I answered, voice steady, drawing from my secret struggle. Start small. Savings apps, worker grants. Notes scribbled, pens scratching. Reclaiming the family name hit peak when a local paper featured it. Nurse turns personal trial into community triumph. I read it aloud to the kids, paper crinkling, my name bold. Isabella, not tied to Stephen's shadow. "Our legacy," I said, hugging them, their laughter muffling against me. Calls came, not from family but grateful parents, voices thanking over the line. One evening, Carla texted, "Got approved for housing, thanks to you." I smiled, phone warm in hand, legacy rebuilt, impact over inheritance, positive waves from one act. This wasn't revenge, it was redemption. Each micro-step, email sent, hug given, cookie baked, cementing a name meaning strength. As I tucked the kids in that night, sheets tucking snug, their breaths evening, I felt it. Worth reclaimed, on my terms. That feeling of worth reclaimed stayed with me as I eased the door to the kids' rooms shut, the latch clicking softly in the quiet hallway, my hand lingering on the knob for a moment longer than necessary. The house was still now, save for the faint hum of the refrigerator downstairs and the occasional creak of settling floorboards under my bare feet as I padded back to my own bedroom. The bedside lamp cast a warm golden circle on the comforter, inviting me to sit, which I did, the mattress dipping gently under my weight. I pulled the journal from the nightstand drawer, its pages whispering as I flipped to a fresh one, the pen cap popping off with a small snap. But tonight, instead of writing plans or victories, I paused, the pen hovering over the blank space, ink beating at the tip. This was the moment for reflection, not the hurried kind amid chaos, but a deep, internal dive into the peace that had been building, brick by unseen brick, since that fateful lunch. I set the pen down with a soft clink on the wood, leaning back against the headboard, its cool slats pressing into my shoulders through my thin nightshirt. My eyes drifted to the window, where moonlight filtered through the sheer curtains, casting silvery patterns on the floor like scattered thoughts. Breathing in deeply, the air tasted clean, faintly of the lavender spray I'd used earlier to freshen the linens, a small ritual of calm. Exhale, and with it came the release of lingering tension, my shoulders dropping, muscles uncoiling like a spring finally let go. The journey replayed in fragments, the divorce papers signing with a scratch of pen, ink smearing slightly from my sweaty palm, moving into my parents with boxes thudding on floors, hope flickering, the dinner slights, words landing like pinpricks, accumulating until they bled. But here in this quiet, the truth crystallized. My worth wasn't in their validation, never had been. It was internal, a steady flame I'd tended alone. I traced the edge of the journal cover with my fingertip, feeling the textured leather worn from nights like this. Remembered the aha in the bathroom mirror whispering enough, the word fogging the glass. The secret house hunt, fingers tapping keys in dim light, heart racing with each application send. Those actions, small and solitary, built this peace, not revenge's sharp edge, but self-validation's gentle hold. Tears pricked then, hot at the corners of my eyes, but I let them fall, tracking down my cheeks, salty on my lips as I licked them away. Not sorrow but release, washing away the invisible cloak I'd worn too long. The clock ticked softly on the wall, each second a reminder of time reclaimed. I thought of Jack and Emma, sleeping soundly now, no more basement fears or sidelined hurts. Their laughter earlier during our impromptu dance party in the living room, music from my phone, tinny but joyful, feet stomping, hands clapping, that was our legacy, not a name tied to favoritism. My hand moved to my chest, pressing over my heart, feeling the steady thump-thump, a rhythm of resilience. Nursing shifts, once exhausting obligations, now felt purposeful. Soothing a crying child, my voice murmuring comforts, hands gentle on fevered skin. Even the volunteer group, chairs scraping in circles, stories shared with nods and tissues dabbing eyes, it all stemmed from this internal core, not external praise. A soft breeze rustled the curtains, fabric billowing slightly, carrying the scent of night-blooming jasmine from the yard. I stood, crossing to the window, bare feet padding on the rug's soft pile, and pushed the pane up with a gentle creak, letting cooler air in. Leaning on the sill, elbows resting on the wood, chipped paint flaking under my skin, I stared at the stars pinpointing the sky. Peace wasn't absence of pain, it was acceptance that my value shone independent of their dim view. No more clenching fists at overlooked milestones, no more swallowing bitterness at Stephen's parades. Instead, gratitude for the spark that ignited change. My own hands building, stacking successes like the books on our new shelves, spines straight and proud. I returned to the bed, sheets rustling as I slipped under, pulling the comforter up with a tug, its weight comforting. The lamp switched off with a click, plunging the room into soft darkness, moonlight still tracing edges. Lying there, breaths deepening, I whispered to myself, lips moving silently, "You're enough." The words settled in my chest, warm and true, dissolving the last echoes of doubt. Sleep came then, easy and dreamless, body relaxing fully for the first time in years. Morning would bring routines, Coffee brewing, kids chatter, shifts healing, but underpinned by this realization, self-validation was the truest peace, internal and unshakable, a quiet revolution that changed everything without fanfare. The journey from feeling invisible in my own family to standing firm in my worth wasn't easy, but looking back, it's clear that breaking free was the only way to truly heal. Have you ever dealt with favoritism that made you question your place? Or maybe you've had to set hard boundaries to protect your peace. I'd love to hear your stories in the comments. Sharing them might help someone else going through the same. What do you think? Did I wait too long to leave, or was the timing just right to make it empowering? If this resonated with you, remember, your value isn't defined by others' approval. It's in the strength you build every day. Drop a comment below, letting me know your thoughts, like if you've been there, and share your own experiences. And don't forget to subscribe for more real stories about reclaiming your life and finding that inner peace. We've got plenty more to inspire you. Thanks for listening. You're stronger than you know.